Hi, how you going? It's Darren and Paul from CPR Business Advisory. We're back here again today, continuing with our Business Solutions Program podcast. Today, we're going to do a short, sharp, around 10-minute podcast on how profit leakage happens. So, yeah, I think we'll just jump straight in and do our basically intro into this, and I'll let Paul kick it off.
Yeah, look, thanks, Darren. Look, hi guys. Look, I think one of the things that we use acronyms and things in businesses, but we call this the gap, and it's the difference between what you think you should be making and what you are actually making. And at the end of the day, that gap is you're just giving away profit. And these are some 5 quick ones that can change your business with a 10-minute podcast that might just, you've probably got the silver bullet that we'll be able to go through. So look, the first one is margin erosion. And Darren, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, basically, margin erosion is something that's so often people focus on, but they miss the details within it. So, we often go into business and say, do you know what your true costs are? If you don't know what your true costs are, you're bound to be leaking margin left, right, and center. So I think there's an activity that businesses need to do to build up, to understand what their true costs are. So what is it that it is just to produce what you're going to sell before you make any money?
That's right, yeah. And I think part of that also is making sure that the OPEX for the business is right. It's not, if the structure isn't correct, you're going to put financing pressure on you. Your facilities will be stretched, and then that'll become another distraction for the business. So understanding the OPEX and bringing people in at the right time or resources in at the right time is critical, and can also, impact the margin erosion.
Correct. And just to jump in there to reiterate what Paul's saying, now, OPEX for people is another acronym. So basically, these are your costs that occur below the line. So basically, you've got your sales and your cost to actually produce the product. And these are all the costs that are to run the business, your salaries, your telephone costs, everything else that's not built up in, say, a manufacturing cost, so to speak. So these are what we call like a true operational costs, which is OPEX, just in case people don't understand what that word is as well.
Yeah, and look, and part of that cost in the OPEX cost can be customer acquisition cost, where you might be spending money on marketing, but you're not understanding what the returns are, and it comes back down to you can manage only what you can measure. So if you're doing a big advertising campaign, how do you measure it? What is the outcome? And what is the cost to obtain one client? And that needs to be factored in. And it also needs to be, what is the contribution? Sometimes that, in businesses, you do activities that, it contributes to the overhead. It doesn't fall right through to the bottom line, but it just eats those OPEX costs.
Yeah. Are you spending money smartly to bring customers in? If a customer costs you $100 to actually bring them into your sales channel, but you're only making $20 off them, you've got to really work out, is that what you're doing? Is it a leader, or is it something that you think, well, actually, is it worth actually selling to that customer?
That's right. So going on to another one, like we said, it's going to be 10 to 12 minutes, really quick. The next one is manufacturing costs that have been missed. Now, we see this in business all the time. There's businesses that, with COVID, they haven't passed on freight costs that have been increased due to the world economy. There's a lot of hidden little factors in there as well. Some people, if you're importing, for example, there's overseas charges or destination charges, and there's a high energy charge. Now, in one example, that added 20 cents to a unit. Now, that 20 cents, you go, well, that's okay, but the unit only costs $1.30. So you've got a big increase in your cost base. So it's understanding those costs.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's a bottom up approach, right? Just building it up and so understanding every component that goes into the actual cost to deliver a product.
And measuring it and monitoring it,
Yeah.
and knowing if it has gone up, and that also includes currency, and hedging, and a lot of people aren't traders, but let's work on a cost, and this is what your cost was, and manage that way.
Yeah, 100%. Especially with imports, and you're actually having to buy in, say, US dollars, and you've got exposures to foreign currency, so a lot of times that gets missed, and then all of a sudden that's just bleeding margin straight out the bottom. The other one that before we go on to the next point is your obsolete stock items. So having a look at your stock turns. Have you got really old stock that you're never going to sell? And then that means it's one of two things. You've got an item that's outdated, it's already been overtaken by a new product, you're going to write it off, so therefore you're going to erode your margin. Or is the stock overpriced compared to your competitive? So, are you going to have to do a stock write down to be able to be competitive, to be able to sell the product? So it's really having a clear understanding of basically your stock and understanding how to manage it.
Yeah, and look, that could be just manage the outliers. Pick 10 items a week, and go through and do a costing review and see if you are actually making the money that you should. And if it's a slow moving item, discount it, turn it into cash. And the other part of that is if you're using raw materials and you're making a larger volume of the product and a certain size of that product, it could be in liters or kilos, isn't getting utilized. One of the options is don't make use raw materials to make 50 kilos when you've got a heap of 10 kilos that haven't moved. Then use the 10 kilos that's already made and make 50 kilos.
Oh yeah,
and save on raw material purchases.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, that's margin erosion, but then it also flows into your cash flow, right? Because you're tying up cash in stock, and it's a whole raft of other problems that you're dealing with. Anyway, because we're doing this short and sharp, we'll move on to the next one. And I think the next really big one that you often get the margin erosion or profit leakage within a business is your bad debts. I mean, you can go for, I can go. I mean, you look at bad debts. This usually comes down to it's just poor management. Are you on top of your accounts? Are you following up on collections? If you've got 7-day terms, are you making sure that your customers are meeting the 7-day terms? Are you following up customers? Are you doing follow-up emails? Are you follow-up phone calls? Just are you managing them? Have you got somebody on the phone calling them? A lot of the times, it's if you call a customer, they'll pay you a lot of the time. Yes, there's a problem where they won't, but if you don't call anyone, no one's going to pay you.
And I think the other thing is be upfront, be honest, and say, look, are you having cash flow difficulties? Can we enter into a payment arrangement? The debt's $5,000. Why don't you give us, $2,000, and then we'll just do $500 over the next couple of weeks, until we get it paid. At least you're managing that, because. And if the ATA, that's the way the ATA works. We want to take 20% up front, and then we'll put you on a payment plan. Yeah. At least you're getting that cash back in your business and protecting and covering some of those costs.
Oh, exactly. Moving on to the next one is really understanding your business model. Are you a high volume, low margin business, or are you a high margin, low volume business? And it's really just, there's a lot to say, understanding your business and understanding how you approach the two different markets, or a blend of those two.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of that comes down to, and we say it a lot to clients, turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. And it's about looking at customer mix, product mix. We've been in businesses, that might be turning over $30 million on a really small margin, but their product mix is skewed. They've got great products that they can invest in, and they drop their turnover down to $20 million, but they're making more money at the end of the day. They've got less finance costs, they've got less pressures. There's less product coming in, there's less overheads, and they're making more money because they've changed their sales mix and also customer mix.
Yeah.
So you've got to get that right for your business model.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, there's no hard and fast science in that. That is just understanding the business, understanding the market, and really just doing a deep dive into it. I think this sort of leads into the last point, which is we're doing the quick, sharp 5 sort of points for profit leakage. And that's really...
We've got 2 minutes to go.
And that's knowing your gross margin and also knowing your net margin and the difference between the two. That is a big one. It sort of ties back into what we were talking about with OPEX before, because OPEX is often a big erosion component of your margin of your business. It's a leakage. It's a profit leakage. If you're overspending your OPEX and you're not really capturing it at the sales end for your gross margin point of view.
Yeah, and again, it's back to understanding. Does a particular customer contribute? You know, you might. It's not a loss leader necessarily. It might make a reasonable gross margin, but you know, it's an overhead eater. It contributes, you know, to your overall eating of your overheads. And then what happens is when you pick up the different kind of customers, what that can do is that all starts to fall through a lot quicker into your bottom line.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's really just say, well, in simplistic terms, what's your break-even percentage? You work on your break-even percentage, which takes into account your OPEX and all your manufacturing, so basically all your cost of goods, and say, okay, here's my baseline break-even. So that means I'm going to have to charge, call it 10%. And that's just to break even. That's not to make any money. And then you say, well, what do I need to charge to actually make profit? So basically, people often have profit leakage, which is basically because they're undercutting themselves before they even get to actually to the market.
Yeah, and what happens is it happens so quick because you're so busy in your business, you don't realize you're not across all the costs. Oh, there's new energy costs, someone else's.
Yeah.
No one's looking at the administration charges that you're getting on your invoices, because
looking at your supplier agreements, understanding if costs have increased, like all your terms for suppliers have got worse. There's a whole raft of things that you can dive into, but I mean, those are sort of some quick ones. Anyway, I mean,
and I think, look, for 12 minutes. You know, this could change your business, and it's just an idea. You've got the silver bullet. Look, if you want to go to cprba.com.au, go to the resource page, have a look at some of the resources there. There's some free resources if you want to book an appointment. Give us a call, and the mobile is 0475 727 352. Just give us a call and have a chat, and we might be able to help your business improve your bottom line.
Yeah, 1% in your pocket's better than not.
That's right.
And we
okay, thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. See ya.